On the day this is uploaded, it will be the 20th anniversary of the release of Chibi Robo in Japan, June 23rd, 2025. And while Chibi Robo didn't release until 2006 in North America and Europe, I thought it was fitting to make the video for today specifically for a lot of reasons. This won't be like my average videos where I try to make a lot of jokes. There will be some jokes in here, but this video is more about sentimentality for me. Chibi Robo was never and will never be the best game of all time. It's an extremely simple game meant to be experienced by children, at least old enough to read, with theming a lot of them won't even pick up on. And despite this, it's a game I replay semi-frequently, look back on fondly, and have recommended to adults who have played it and enjoyed it despite its simple nature because it's such a unique experience. Explaining what Chibi Robo is to people is a very weird task. It's a game where you play as a small robot who is bought by a family experiencing not only financial troubles, but family troubles themselves, such as a lack of communication, the husband being out of a job, an overworked housewife, and a kid who refuses to talk in anything but ribbits. And you're here to clean the house. But after the first day, when night rolls around, you find out that toys in this house are alive and only move around when the family isn't looking. But despite your purpose being simply to make the family happy by doing small tasks, cleaning up dirt on the floor, picking up garbage, little water spills, as you progress, the game changes focus many times, from being about bringing back to life an old Robo model in the basement called Giga Robo, to saving the marriage of this family, to talking to aliens. Again, this game is weird, but it's weirdly charming. All the characters, its music, the stories, its gameplay loop, and design. The first time I played Chibi Robo was around like October, November of 2006, and I was only 7 years old and I did not know how to read. I wouldn't know how to read for another year or two. My cousin had rented the game and she showed it to me and I instantly fell in love with it, and I ended up getting it for Christmas. And this is that copy. It doesn't work. I gave it to my cousins later down the line in life, and they gave it back to me absolutely scuffed up with no box. My cousins have permanently ruined one of my favorite games from my childhood that now goes for over 200 Canadian dollars on eBay. So instead, I decided to buy a Japanese GameCube and a Japanese copy of Chibi Robo, because I'm learning Japanese, and I might as well use one of my favorite games of all time to learn a little bit of Japanese. It's child-friendly, and, you know, good for early on grammar. Did you know? Buying a Japanese copy of Chibi Robo and a Japanese GameCube from eBay is cheaper than one copy of Chibi Robo from the United States? It's true. But it just goes to show you how much I love this game and its series. You know, if I am willing to learn an entire language to avoid paying absolutely horrible reseller prices, it's gotta be a good game. I'm not gonna really talk in depth on everything in this game's plot or side content, but a quick summary of events in this game and then talk about different parts of it individually throughout the video, because honestly, that's kind of how this game is. It weirdly starts off small and just snowballs, but occasionally the snowball breaks into different snowballs that all go in different paths, almost completely unrelated from each other, seemingly at random. The game starts off by opening on a birthday party for Jenny, with the family all around the living room table, with everyone giving her their presents. Mom giving her a hat and then being mad she won't stop acting like a frog when Jenny rejects the presents. The dog giving her a bone that he somehow wrapped with a bow. That's not even me making a joke about it. The game calls attention to this gag too, which honestly is still kind of funny every time I replay the game. And then Dad hyping up his gift, which is Chibi Robo, and Mom immediately being concerned that the family cannot afford such an expensive thing, and the dad brushes it off as Jenny wanted it, despite it being very clear he bought it for himself. Immediately, the main conflict of this game is established, and it's something that can easily go over a kid's head. And I think that's what gives this game its charm. Despite being so child-oriented, it tackles something children actually deal with in an extremely realistic way, at least at first. The mother's very clear love for the family, but concern for their behaviors when she's not listened to, and a father that, while not a bad person, very clearly isn't listening to his wife or doing what's truly in the best interest of the family. But right after that, Chibi Robo and his assistant friend, Telly, are preparing to exit the Chibi house and make their debut. It's all very cute, and while also being a little comedic, with the mom just staring blankly at this reveal in horror at how much this must have cost them and not being discussed with her. Chibi Robo climbs up to the top of a vase, impresses the dad like no tomorrow, and picks up the rose, even impressing the mom. You then hover down, give Jenny the rose, and the tutorial ends, and they party into the night. It's a great introduction to a game that seems incredibly happy up front, but as time goes on, it kind of gets more and more depressing and weirdly dark.
It establishes its themes immediately with subtle dialogue and even character expressions while keeping that cutesy kids game art style and writing completely intact and wastes no time. And so you get brought into the Chibi house, and I'll use this time to explain how this game works. Chibi Robo can gain happy points for doing tasks around the house such as cleaning, throwing out garbage, finishing, I guess what you would call side quests and stories, I don't know. There's a lot of other small things to do as well that add to this, like feeding fish and just a bunch of miscellaneous things to do. And these will be added to your tally every time you recharge inside the Chibi house, and when you hit specific milestones, you'll get a battery upgrade, because Chibi Robo is, well, a robot who runs on a battery. So early on in the game, you'll have very little battery and will have to go charging very frequently, and getting lots of happy points as fast as possible means less charging and more time to do things throughout the day. This might sound like it'd be annoying, but it's kind of got the same appeal that Animal Crossing does to me. It's just extremely charming to clean up the stuff around the house and balance how long you have, and maybe bet that you can get the charge that's closer to where you're going, or if you should just make a little stop, things like that. Then, after the little talk with Telly, you're off into the house at night where you immediately find the dad sleeping on the couch. Probably because mom is mad at him. You find his toothbrush on the floor and take it to use it to clean floors, and it has this cute little music every time you use it. Which, almost everything in this game has this beautiful interactive music that has stuck with me for, well, nearing on 20 years now. Walking makes different musical noises depending on what kind of surface you're walking on, picking up and dropping your plug, picking up garbage, cleaning the floor, using the squirter, charger, name an action in this game, and it almost certainly has an incredibly well-made little musical sound attached to it. One of my first encounters with dynamic music in video games was specifically this game, and has had me enamored with it ever since. And it's that when Chibi Robo's plug is on the floor, the music is normal, but when you pick it up, it increases the speed of the music, which ties into the fact that Chibi Robo walks faster while carrying his plug. It's such simple yet great audio and game design that sometimes I get mad that games don't tap into this type of audio design more for their games. It makes every action memorable to me. Like, I love Devil May Cry 3 and 4, and I love the actions I can make in those games. Obviously I remember them, but when I think to Devil May Cry as a whole, I think about 5 and its dynamic music. Doing something absolutely sick and the game changing from B or A rank to triple S and getting an increase in tempo and being transitioned to a more intense part of the song, that's fantastic. And while Chibi Robo never has like awesome moments or anything, it's filled with so many cute memories instead that warm my heart because it's not afraid to be cute and musical. It makes this game really stand out in my mind. Sorry, tangents are just going to be part of this video because Chibi Robo is just a game of plot tangents, and I think it's fitting to just go on little passionate rants about this game's little things. So, after picking up Dad's toothbrush and doing some cleaning, there's not much to do on the first night but talk to Drake Redcrest and this thing, Sophie. She has a crush on Drake Redcrest, and Drake Redcrest doesn't know she exists. So you go talk to Drake Redcrest, he teaches you how to fart his way. And then you go over to Sophie, fart, and gaslight her into thinking you're the real Drake Redcrest. That's really hard to say very often, and make her run off in shy fear. So now you can access the kitchen at night, and well, there's still not much to do here on the first night. And after this night, well, you can essentially just start doing several things. Go to the basement and continue the main storyline. Explore what you can of every room. Try to go upstairs, make money, try to get as many happy points as you can to get a better battery. World's your oyster. For the purposes of this retrospective, I went to the kitchen to get the cup, get access to the basement, and find Giga Robo, a giant dead, unused old Robo model that when you stick your plug into him, you get his memories and how before you, Giga Robo was brought into this house to help with menial chores and became a good and loved friend to everyone in the house. And during this time, the Sandersons family couldn't afford the energy bill that was so expensive that Giga Robo felt guilty. And one night, he caught an alien spaceship that was going to crash land, saving the aliens, and the aliens granted him 2 wishes, one of which is to give life to all the toys in the house, the second was infinite life, so that he wouldn't burden the Sandersons anymore with the energy bill. But the aliens could only grant 1 wish at a time, and promised to return with the ability to do so. But as we can see, Giga Robo was too expensive for the Sandersons, and he was left in the basement, broken and rotten away. Then you meet this pirate that explains everything I just did to you, and he's my least favorite character in the game. Every time he shows up, he talks for about like a half an hour and essentially exists for storytelling, but the way his text scrolls on screen means you can't skip most of it, and it's kind of just annoying if I'm honest. So anyways, you take Giga Robo's battery, find his charger, and for every 1000 moolah you put into the charger, you'll recharge 10% of his battery, totaling to a required 10,000 moolah to charge it. Not much main plot happens for a while. You talk to Mom, who's overworked and stressed cleaning up after everyone in the house. She actually really appreciates what you do around the house, and it's kinda cute. She even invites you to have some tea with her while she rants about her family. It's clear that despite her initial concerns about you and still very concerned about how much you cost, she very much enjoys Chibo and is happy he's around. She just wishes it was under better circumstances. Eventually she talks to you about how she's been doing the math and the bills just aren't adding up. There's missing money that should be there, and she asks you to see if Dad has been secretly buying toys and hid the receipts somewhere. And sadly, to our dismay, he has! And you bring it to her and she locks herself in the room, and honestly, I'm just gonna let this scene play out for itself. If you're just listening to this video, sorry, but I think reading the scene is way funnier than if I were to read it out loud. She just roasts the whole family. So, Miss Sanderson just threatened divorce, and now Dad has got to lock in and be a husband now, and starts cleaning the house more, doing yard work, and cooking. And now your goal is pretty much to just try to fix the marriage that you helped destroy. Thanks, Chibo Bibo. We can always count on you. So, thankfully, since the main plot slows down here, I think it's a good time to talk about everything else you can do in this game, and its various weird characters. We already met Redcrest and Sophie, but on the way to the basement for the first time, you meet the Free Rangers, who are a bunch of toy soldier eggs who immediately open fire on you for entering their space and are an unknown. After you get to the basement, they stop being hostile and you can join them in ranger trading to stop the dog menace. One of the Free Rangers has gone missing because Tao the dog saw it as a toy and just took it, making Sarge lose one of his eyes in the process. I didn't get footage for this side quest, but essentially you do some training mini games like climbing, shooting targets, and going through the obstacle courses, and finally after all the training and progression, you eventually surround Tao and shoot the barrel on his collar and free their friend. Another Free Ranger story revolves around the pirate who I don't like, and never remember his name because of it, and how he wants to be a pirate again with his ship. And that kind of stirs the Free Rangers to fall apart, many staying in the group, but others following their own dreams of being a race car driver or pirates. Upstairs in Jenny's room, there's Sunshine, her teddy bear, Mort the mummy, and Princess Pitts. Horrible name. I wanted to do this side story, but since I was essentially speedrunning this game for footage, I just couldn't get this story to start, and if I'm honest, I still don't know why. But after it's revealed that Sunshine is essentially a nectar addict and needs her fix or else she goes crazy mode, one night she does go crazy mode, attacking the toy castle and making Princess Pitt lose her shoe. Mort, unable to help, sets her down some dead flowers at the base of the castle. Drake Redcrest tries to save the damsel in distress. Saying Drake Redcrest this many times this quick sucks so hard. This isn't in the script. I'm just going on a little tangent. Oh my god, I hate saying that guy's name. He tries to save this damsel in distress and tries to take credit for you saving her and brings her a new live flower, but the princess is for some reason more interested in the dead flowers. This leads to a little love triangle story about Mort being depressed that he's scary and no one likes him, and eventually Princess Pitts discovers it was him that left the flowers for her, and despite finding him scary, wants to give him a chance. It's all really silly and cute, and I wish I had more time to get footage of this, but at the time of the upload of this video, I actually spontaneously started making this only a month ago when doing some research and realized that the 20th anniversary was coming up, but this also gives me an excuse of saying that you yourself should play Chibi Robo. During the Switch 2 lineup reveal, they showed off GameCube games being added to the Nintendo Online service, and Chibi Robo was in that lineup, at least in the trailer, so sometime soon, Chibi Robo should be added to the Nintendo Online Classic Games lineup, and will be legally playable on hardware that isn't the GameCube for less than a small fortune for the first time in maybe 18 years. So please, when it's added, go play it if you haven't. It's a short game that makes itself long just by how much side content and small things there are to find in it. Back to the retrospective. The last side story I want to personally cover in this game is my personal favorite, and it starts off with a frog in the backyard. You spray it with some water and the frog gives you a frog costume that lets you talk to frogs. I know, the logic is very sound and everything makes sense in this game. She reveals that her husband had gone into the house and hasn't come back out, and that she is begging you to go inside and help him out. He's probably dried up and dying in there. So, when you go to the parents' room, there's a frog with a weird blocky bite mark in it, and when you try to pick him up, a dinosaur shows up and chases you, and she tries to bite you, and well, you're made of metal, and she's some sort of Lego block dinosaur, so her teeth fall out. This is Dinah, a weird southern accent old woman dinosaur who is really funny, and if you've ever met a funny, sweet old lady, that's Dinah. Dinah is just a weird character through and through, and I think this side story is the perfect example of how good this game is at telling stories about serious topics for kids, while still being enjoyable for older audiences. Dinah wants you to help out this dancing flower toy stuck behind the blinds, so you go free him and he introduces himself as Funky Phil. He likes dancing and Dinah likes watching him because she has a crush on him. Phil wants you to find a Drake Redcrest vinyl in the living room. Saying Drake Redcrest is never not gonna screw up this script. Find the vinyl in the living room so he can put on a little show and do a cool dance party. And so you do all that and he puts on a little show. And again, I didn't get footage of this story because I progressed the game so fast that Dinah was locked out of this entire story the entire time and would only start after I beat the game. So, after Funky Phil gets his funk on and he drops a funky seed, and without his permission, you plant this seed in one of the planters around the house and that gives birth to a child, congratulations, you just provided a man a child he did not ask for under circumstances he never expected. But he accepts them with open arms and teaches him to dance. You do this like 2 or 6 times, I don't remember, until one of them is weird and different, and from this point on I will ask people who have not played Chibi Robo to play the game and go to this timestamp on screen to avoid spoilers for this side of the story. If you're still here, yeah, so the kid feels ostracized for being different and not knowing how to dance like the other ones, but Funky Phil doesn't really care. He wants his son to keep trying, and eventually he does get good and they all get a little party. Then Funky Phil dies. Like he just randomly dies and Dinah now has to like take care of the kids. And it's all a very surreal experience in a kid's game like this. Despite this game already tackling other somewhat heavy topics for a kid's game, just the spontaneous death of Funky Phil is still pretty crazy, and you have to watch 3 kids and a woman who had a crush on this guy just come to terms with the random and unforeseen death of someone really important to them. This eventually leads Dinah to wanting to throw one final dance party in his honor, and you end up teaching the weird child how to do the red crest pose, and eventually you get them all ready for the show, and it goes off great. Everyone's happy. The next day his kids are all around him, surrounding him with bouquets of flowers, and he just comes back to life. Turns out someone just accidentally turned him off. He was never dead. They turned him back on, and now Funky Phil is back to funking. And honestly, it's fucking hilarious. This whole story about teaching people how to deal with loss and grief and honoring those they love, they just top it off with a joke on how these are in fact toys. Honestly, that's what Chibi Robo is all about. It's not afraid to be silly while tackling some pretty dark subjects in a way that's easy to understand for children. It wasn't until recently, about like the last decade or so, that children's media really started tackling subject matter like this in shows like Bluey, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, among many others. Obviously, kids shows when I was growing up and before tackled serious subjects, but most of them were things like drug PSAs, stranger danger, boring shit like that. Especially up here in Canada, we had commercials talking about the dangers of believing everything you see on TV. And obviously there were some cartoons and kids shows that tried to tackle like the concept of racism. But I can't really think of kids shows, at least all that many. I'm sure there's a few that tackle the subjects of parental disagreements and divorce and the effect on kids. Throughout the first half of the game, it's very frequent you can find Jenny crying outside of her mom's room at night or sad because she knows her parents are fighting, but she doesn't know what to do about it. And I find that very novel about this game, especially for its time 20 years ago. There wasn't much kids media like this stuff. I was only 6 at the time, and like I said, I only learned to read a year or two later, and I dealt with a lot of problems like this in my childhood, and Chibi Robo was a comfort game for me. Not necessarily because my parents were getting a divorce, I mean that happened like, what, 10 years later? But knowing that my parents were fighting or disagreements or neglect made me feel like maybe I was a bit more normal than I thought. It helped me be a bit more independent at times, at least for my personal experience of playing this game growing up, and there's honestly a good chance you might see a part of your own childhood in this game playing it now. The whimsy of escapism through acting like you're a frog or talking through your toys, things like this make Jenny, despite not saying many actual words besides ribbit, one of the most interesting characters in this game simply because of the small things she does. She draws her mom being mad at her dad, or her being happy with Chibi Robo, among other things that show how she feels whenever you go see her. And it's never really explicitly said that Jenny wears the frog hat because of her family. She doesn't really talk to them, but she's shown to be able to talk when she wants to. But it can be interpreted that she wears the frog hat and claims to be cursed by a frog to speak like a frog, so that she doesn't have to tackle the subject of facing her dysfunctional family and chooses to instead be a frog. Though, if you get all the frog rings, Jenny will take the frog hat off, thank you, and talk normally, but then when you leave the room, she'll scream, "Oh no, I'm being cursed again. I'm gonna put the hat back on." So it could just be that she likes it. Who knows? All I know is that it's time to talk about the main plot again. Early on in the game, you get introduced to the only outright enemies in the game, the Spiders. I'm just gonna call them spiders from now on because it's easier that way. Weird bug-like robots that attack you. And throughout the game, through special optional dialogue, you can hear about Chibi Robo's effects on the world through the TV. Eventually, you'll be able to contact the aliens in the backyard and show them to Giga Robo, who they are extremely depressed to find out that they are too late to provide him eternal life. They really like the big guy and appreciate him, and go back to their spaceship defeated and depressed. You can meet up with them again another night, and they will be deathly ill as the Earth atmosphere is actually bad for them, overheating them. So you go onto their spaceship and help them, but also steal their time machine and go back in time to the Sandersons when Giga Robo was still alive and Tao was a puppy. Here you get the access code for the briefcase under the bed in the master bedroom and start the ending of the game. Going back to the present, opening up the briefcase and trying to get the Giga Robo leg out, which you've been searching for, will cause a bunch of spiders to drop from the ceiling and steal the leg. Dad busts down the door because the spiders are attacking his wife, grabs her, and rushes to the living room with everyone and seals themselves in the living room. And we finally get an explanation on why Dad has been a kind of deadbeat the whole game. Turns out, he was an engineer who worked on the spiders, and the company he was working for made them evil, so he experienced so much guilt he quit his job, lied to his wife about it, and wallowed in depression on the couch. So you fight off the spiders the best you can while he gets his tools to upgrade the Chibi Blaster, and you go out there blasting. But it gets cut short, the family gets captured by the big spider, blah blah, big boss fight, Chibi Robo kills it and restores order to the house. Mom isn't mad at Dad anymore, and they thank you. During the night after this debacle, Redcrest is watching TV, and the news reporter pretty much says that there's so much demand for Chibi Robo that it's putting strain on the local power plant, overloading, and that the world is on a path where demand of power exceeds supply. And in the morning, you go to the kitchen. Dad tells you he dropped his ring down the sink, which is the final thing you need to get before finishing the game, as it has the code to start Giga Robo. You go down there, get the date of their wedding anniversary, and start the big guy up, and he wows the entire house by being alive. He steps into the backyard, the aliens come down and give him eternal life, and by extension, any electronic that plugs into him, meaning that you also have infinite battery. Roll end credits. Behind the end credits, there's a bunch of art showing what happens afterwards. The family and toys are extremely happy with Chibi Robo and Giga Robo. The dad repairs Giga Robo a little bit. Every Chibi Robo comes to Giga Robo to plug in and get an infinite battery. The news comes to their house to talk about the phenomenon, and that's it. That's the end of Chibi Robo. Despite this video being a retrospective, I know a lot of it was just plot recap or discussion of side stories, but I'd be here all day talking about the game instead of what I really want this to be. A reason for you to play Chibi Robo. Despite knowing the main plot, I really think Chibi Robo's main plot doesn't really matter compared to the game as a package and experience. There's so much I didn't cover about this game's exploration, side content, mini-games, character interactions. But obviously this isn't the end of the video because, well, there's a couple things I still want to talk about. As much as I talked about the game's extremely impressive interactive musical sounds, I didn't talk about the actual music, which has some of my favorite music in games. It's not Xenoblade Chronicles or Ace Attorney or Monster Hunter or anything like that. but it is distinctly its own. There's no soundtrack out there that really sounds like Chibi Robo to me. I've been humming it for 20 years now, and I won't be stopping anytime soon. This music rocks. And talking about Chibi Robo without talking about its sequels at all would be odd, to say the least. I had Park Patrol growing up, and I loved it to death. I still do. I actually 100%ed this game far before I even did the original game. I still have it because the flying minigame is kind of dog shit. From what I know, this game kind of has a bad rap among people, Chibi Robo, Nintendo fans, and anyone alike that knows about this game. And it's mostly because, well, Nintendo made it a Walmart exclusive for some damn reason. A lot of people never knew this game existed, and by the time they did, it was probably too late. But as a game, I really enjoy Park Patrol. It's far more interactive and expansive as a game than the original Chibi Robo, but it trades in a nice contained house and story for a large park in a city street. But what it makes up for in cute minigames and side characters and overall things to do, it misses out on an actually interesting story and interesting exploration. What made the original Chibi Robo's exploration and story interesting wasn't that it was some truly gripping drama or a huge world. It was just that everything was small. From the conflicts to the things that you can interact with. Yeah, eventually it's like, oh, the power grid is overloading, but like, that's not what Chibi Robo was about. It was about the family, and you just happen to have like that thing appear at the end of the game. Chibi Robo himself is only a couple centimeters tall, meant that simply a house is a world and hard to navigate. Nothing was ever designed with you in mind, so you have to climb the stairs slowly or get a little robot companion to get you to far-reaching areas, hover down from the top of things that are only a foot or two tall so that you don't hurt yourself. Please ignore all the footage of me bypassing this with a speedrunning glitch. I've been playing this game for 20 years. I want to get to the bottom quickly. If you wanted to climb something, you gotta pull out the drawers one by one and then climb them. Make your own tiny little stairs that are still too big for you. Or climb up a little wire or a piece of string that dangles low enough for you to get to the top. It might all seem very tedious, but something about this exploration loop is just so appealing to me. And while some of that is still in Park Patrol, it doesn't really hold a candle to the original. Maybe one day I'll do a video on Park Patrol, maybe a 20-year anniversary video for it too. We're not too far off from that. The next game in the Chibi Robo franchise as well, Okaeri Chibi Robo Happy Dichio Soji.
Oh, my apologies. I definitely butchered that pronunciation. Oh god. It's a good thing that I'm a YouTuber and I don't have to look up how things are pronounced. And I also don't know any Japanese.
Translated literally, that's Welcome Chibi Robo Happy Rich Big Sweep. But English fans have been simply calling this for a while now Chibi Robo Clean Sweep. I think the Japanese part in the name Big Sweep actually means like deep cleaning, but I don't really know. But everywhere I also check when it comes to translating this is deep clean, which would make the name make a little bit more sense than Happy Rich Big Sweep. But a lot of Japanese games also just have really weird names like that too, so it could just be Big Sweep. I don't know. Obviously, this game was never localized outside of Japan, which is a shame. It's genuinely such a beautiful little DS title that returns to the roots of the original game. I love Park Patrol, but I don't have much of emotional attachment to that game like I do the original and this game. I bought a Japanese copy of this again to help with learning Japanese, but I played this a couple years ago with the fan patch that localizes the game as if it was actually localized like the original games, and I have to say, I really recommend that you play it. I'll be completely honest, I cried playing this game. You might not cry playing it, but the story in this game is just so much better than the originals in terms of writing. I love this game to bits. It's technically an actual, like, sort of indirect sequel to the first game, where something like 20 to 30 years into the future, you are bought by an adult Jenny who is a single mother who has one son and a dog and is, well, not very well off. Her house is a mess, probably best to describe it as in disrepair, and she doesn't have a lot of money. She works as much as she can to support her family, but she still is a single mother on a single person's income, and it's revealed that the man who is her father's son didn't abandon her or anything. He had simply, sadly, passed away before they could get married. A lot of Jenny's plot is about how she bought you because she remembers when she was a kid, she had a Chibi Robo, and that Chibi Robo fixed her family. And she hopes that, again, you can help her and her family come a little better. I don't want to get too into the plot here, as I think it's important that if you are interested in this game at all, you give it a try. It's really depressing for a kid's game, but in a good way. Before we go on to the next games, I just want to say that despite these games being made for the DS and having touchscreen movement and other things like that, they function surprisingly well. Not a lot of DS games are 3D pseudo-open world, but they made it work really well. They're obviously graphically low-res and low-poly, but I think that gives these games their own cute little flair in the franchise. It allows for touchscreen minigames for like pedaling the bike and things like that. Sadly, after Clean Sweep though, we have Photo Finder. And I never bought this game, and I don't own it. And considering it was digital only on the 3DS, I have no way of ever owning it. And the only way I'd ever have a way to show you footage of it is to emulate it, and well, the game just wouldn't function. This is hardly a Chibi Robo game. This is a tech demo where you play as Chibi Robo and have to take pictures of things around your house that are either what you need to find or are similar shape to what you're looking for. It has side characters and other stuff in it, but it's nothing like any other Chibi Robo games, and if I'm honest, it sucks. The only thing I'm going to show you about this game is a Vinesauce clip that is essentially the game's only legacy, where he scans a tea bag wrapped in a condom for some reason.
We're gonna make this right. Did it. Done. Yes. Yes. That looks like some good tea. It's even got a little tea cozy on it. A purple tea cozy. Why is the tea cozy slimy? Chibi Robo wonders to himself.
Obviously, for preservation reasons, this game should be documented and kept around, but sadly there's like no reason to ever play this game. Ziplash. I hate Chibi Robo Ziplash. This is where I talk about Nintendo and their absolutely disgusting garbage. Chibi Robo on the GameCube was not a hugely successful game. Not only did it release on the GameCube, the worst selling console of that generation, it was released in 2005 in Japan, and in 2006 in America and Europe. Chibi Robo in America released after the launch of the Xbox 360, and the same year as the Wii, and so far into the GameCube's lifespan that there wasn't much people buying games for the console anymore. Nintendo didn't do a lot of advertisement for Chibi Robo as far as I'm aware, and even if they did, it would have fell on deaf ears to the GameCube's smaller player base and being the end of the GameCube's life cycle. Which, fine. Chibi Robo doesn't need to be successful right now because Chibi Robo Park Patrol will be on the DS, one of the best-selling consoles of all time. What? What? Nintendo, in all of their intelligent glory, made a sequel to an already niche and unpopular game on the GameCube on the DS. Great idea. So you'd think, wow, they must have wanted this to succeed, right? Wrong. They made this a store exclusive. And you might be wondering, well, a store exclusive isn't the worst thing, except it's fucking Walmart. Who the hell goes to Walmart for video games except parents? Even as a kid, I rarely bought video games from Walmart because if we were looking for games, we were either at Best Buy, Blockbuster, Future Shop, which was a Canadian competitor to Best Buy at the time, EB Games, Toys R Us, or another Canadian store brand called Microplay. The only times I buy games from Walmart are when I just happen to be in the area of the store when I'm already doing other shopping. I don't want to walk up to the glass, find an employee because one is never around, bring them to the glass, point it and go, that one, and watch them pick it up for me and bring it to the register so I can buy it here and then buy the rest of my groceries at the front registers. The only reason I had this game as a kid is because my parents would give me just a bunch of store flyers and tell me to circle things I want for Christmas for a Christmas list, and I just happened to find it on the Walmart flyer. I am a child at the time, so I don't exactly find advertisements for video games anywhere but magazines that I happen to pick up, or when I'm in a store with my parents, or it's just Christmas time or my birthday. So who the hell is going to find Chibi Robo Park Patrol naturally when your target audience is a game for kids when you have it exclusive at Walmart? This game was doomed from the moment Nintendo signed that exclusivity deal, and it almost definitely is the reason Chibi Robo wouldn't get localized for another game until 2013. Because Nintendo fumbled again. Nintendo during the Wii generation would make enhanced ports of GameCube games for Wii under the name New Play Control by adding new motion controls, widescreen, among other things to these ports. And in Japan, Nintendo released a New Play Controls port of Chibi Robo for the Wii, and never localized it. So the original game had a chance to be on Nintendo's most successful console of all time at this point, and they still chose not to localize it, a game with an already finished American localization. Now we bring Chibi Robo back on the 3DS as a digital exclusive game that's nothing like the previous entries, so of course it wasn't really successful, but you know, it's a small game with a small budget most likely. Why don't we go out on the next one by turning Chibi Robo into a dogshit platformer with none of what makes Chibi Robo interesting or endearing, put even more money into it by giving him an amiibo, then tell Chibi Robo fans this is probably the last chance to buy Chibi Robo and make it successful. Are you fucking kidding me? To be honest, this might be the last chance for us. I've continually thought about ways to build this into a mainstream success. We've challenged ourselves in assorted ways along those lines, but I can't say that we found the answer yet. You what? At essentially every turn, Chibi Robo in the West has been screwed over by either unfortunate circumstance or Nintendo's blatant disregard and horrible business decisions. And now you're going to change what Chibi Robo is and tell us that it's the last chance to make Chibi Robo successful by making it exactly what it isn't in an era of Nintendo where almost everything they were making was a soulless, boring 2D platformer. I love Chibi Robo. I have loved Chibi Robo for almost 20 years, and I have had relationships formed and grown because of Chibi Robo. I have vocal stims from Chibi Robo, and I have so much love and appreciation for this game series that when the devs of Chibi Robo announced last year that they were doing a spiritual successor, I immediately backed it on Kickstarter. I don't even care if this game ends up bad, because I am grasping at straws for Chibi Robo to be anything but a niche game series that is mainly known because of a Scott the Woz gag. And don't get me wrong, I love that Chibi Robo has more eyes on it because of Scott making jokes. I agree with him. Fuck Chibi Robo Ziplash.
This game blows!
But it's so infuriating to see a game that should have had every opportunity to simply be a smaller Nintendo franchise be successful, with an occasional game here and there, be reduced to nothing but a relic of Nintendo's constant failure to simply give the game a proper chance to shine. 20 years. It has been 20 years. I am 26, and 19 of my 26 years on this planet have been influenced by a fictional little helper robot. I wish I could say I was joking when I say this little robot game has changed my life. My first long-term relationship was with a girl who also had this game growing up, and I was her best friend for 8 fucking years. I bonded over this game with her. I always discussed this game with my cousins who introduced it to me. I've shared this game with so many people over the years that have all told me that they really enjoyed it. Not a single person regret playing that game. They didn't all get attached to it, but what matters is that they were a fan. They would play other games, or even the new one. But with all that said and done, one day soon, it'll be added to the GameCube Nintendo Switch Online lineup, and I hope that you play it. And maybe, just maybe, this will be the chance Chibi Robo needs to get a new game. One that'll be shown on a Nintendo Direct, one that'll be shown directly to thousands of people and interest them. And is what Chibi Robo originally was, and was always meant to be. A game where you play as a cute little robot in a big world and go around helping weird people in weird situations. And you know, maybe helping a kid or two feel like family life, while not perfect, isn't always as bad as it needs to be. Who knows? Happy 20th anniversary, Chibi Robo. Maybe Nintendo doesn't care about you, but I sure as hell do.